famous men in human history had a birthday recently, and his name was Karl Marx. On May the 5th, Karl Marx, if he was alive, would have been 200 years old, Brandon. Karl Marx. Now, it's important that we talk about who was Karl Marx, because in today's educational culture of puppies and safe spaces, would you be surprised if many in the listening audience, especially the younger folks out there, have no clue who Karl Marx was? Would you be surprised by that? I wouldn't be surprised by that.
I wouldn't be surprised. Truthfully, I would be surprised that they don't know who he is. I would not be surprised if they did not have an extremely distorted view of who he is.
Right.
Yes.
Well, that's an excellent point. But Karl Marx, let's go over this real briefly here. Karl Marx, he was born May 5th, 1818. He was a German philosopher, economist, historian, sociologist, political theorist, journalist, and socialist revolutionary. Born in Trier, Germany, to a Jewish middle-class family, Marx studied law and philosophy at the university. Due to his political publications, Marx became stateless. In other words, no country wanted him on their census rolls as a member of their population.
He was a man from nowhere, Mike Shoesmith.
He was a man from nowhere.
Yes.
And he lived in exile in London for decades, where he continued to develop his thought in collaboration with German thinker Friedrich Engels, and published his writings researching in the reading room of the British Museum. Now, his best-known titles are the 1848 pamphlet, The Communist Manifesto. Now, many in the audience will remember when Hillary Clinton said those famous words, we, the Democrat Party, we want to take from those that have and give to those that don't have for the sake of the common good.
Yes.
She was quoting from Karl Marx's The Communist Manifesto.
That's right.
And also the 3-volume Das Kapital. Now, his political and philosophical thought had enormous influence on subsequent intellectual, economic, and political history, and his name has been used as an adjective and a noun and a school of social theory. So here comes the contradiction here. See if you can catch it, okay? Marx's theories about society, economics, and politics, collectively understood as Marxism, hold that human societies develop through class struggle. In capitalism, this manifests itself in the conflict between the ruling classes, that was known as the bourgeois class, right? And the means of production, and the working class. Now, the working class was known as the proletariat, right? And that enables these means by selling their labor power in return for wages. You know, that's what many people do. They sell their labor power in return for wages. Employing a critical approach known as historical materialism, Marx predicted, now here comes the prophetic aspect here, okay? The Democrat prophet Karl Marx, he prophesied, like previous socioeconomic systems, capitalism produced internal tensions which would lead to its self-destruction by a new system known as socialism. For Marx, class antagonisms under capitalism, owing in part to its instability and crisis-prone nature, would eventuate the working class development of class consciousness, leading to their conquest of political power and eventually the establishment of a classless communist society constituted by the free association of producers. So there's the prophecy, right? Marx believed that just organically a class consciousness would rise up, and this would lead to antagonisms which would cause the proletariat to rise up against the bourgeois organically and take back their freedoms. And Marx actively... Now, here comes the contradiction, because Marx first said this would happen organically. This would not have to be shoehorned into culture. This would just happen. But seeing that it wasn't happening, in fact, it was so not happening, Brandon, that no country on the planet would take ownership of this guy. In fact, many of his writings he had to write under pseudonyms, nom de plumes kind of thing, because he couldn't even write using his own name for fear of being arrested. That's how much people disagreed with this guy. So, because of that, Marx actively pressed for its implementation, arguing that the working class should carry out organized revolutionary action to topple capitalism and bring about socio-economic emancipation.
In other words, the United States,
like?
In other words, the United States of today is operating under the plan of one Karl Marx.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You totally see that, right? But
oh,
you see
absolutely.
the contradiction here, that people completely and totally rejected it en masse. People said, no, we don't want this guy's teachings. We don't even want this guy to be able to vote in our country. That's how seriously opposed to his views they were. And get him out of our country.
But yet he winds up becoming one of the most powerful leaders in world history.
He died stateless, and he was buried in a pauper's grave. It's only in recent times that he was moved and memorialized by communist groups who footed the bill for that. But when he died the same way he lived. People did not trust him. They didn't even want him as a member of their country.
Yeah.
That's how disliked this guy was. And in the end, he finally said, look, you're going to have to force this. This is not happening organically. My prophecy did not come true. This is not happening organically. We have to force this through revolutionary action, which is what we see happening today within the Democrat Party, called upon by Maxine Waters, Hillary Clinton. They're calling for revolutionary action to overthrow
the same ones that are blaming this this bombing, fake bombings, whatever it is, we don't know, on Trump. The very ones that are calling for riots in the streets. Listen, some of the very ones that have called for the execution of Trump are now blaming this bombing episode, these packages being delivered, on Donald Trump for his hateful rhetoric. But listen, brother, as you're sitting here talking about this and Marx and his history and his homelessness, basically, the man from nowhere, think about this, bro. Let's go biblical with this for just about 2 or 3 minutes before the break, all right? So think about this. How does a man, stateless, lived in exile, he had nowhere to go, was writing under fate. How does he rise other than through some type of supernatural influence, supernatural help to be the leader that he became? Brother, that doesn't happen. That defines Ephesians 6. Our battle is not against flesh and blood. We see that battle play out through human hands. But, brother, Karl Marx, if you put the odds on paper, was a 0% chance of becoming the leader, the political leader, the leader in world history that he became.
Well, very well said. But so on Monday, I learned of this. I did not know of this anniversary until the anniversary of his birth until Monday. So, I've always said on this show that we need to take every opportunity we can to keep the education going on the harmful effects of socialism/communism, because Karl Marx made no difference. He saw no daylight between communism and socialism. Nothing. They are one and the same thing. And I was thinking on Monday, how am I going to formulate this into an interesting topic for the show on Friday? Well, on Tuesday, like manna from heaven, Brandon, the White House sends out a blast email, and the email subject line says, "Socialism belongs in the dustbin of history. With the 200th anniversary of Karl Marx's birth, socialism is making a comeback in America." This is the White House, okay? It's an official email. If you're not on the White House 1600 daily official email list, get on it. There's a lot of good stuff in there. But now they're referencing, on Tuesday, they referenced the 200th anniversary of the birth of Karl Marx. With the 200th anniversary of Karl Marx's birth, socialism is making a comeback in America. Democrats used to accuse Republicans of fear-mongering when they called out certain far-left policy ideas as socialist. Now a growing number of Democrats are wearing the label as a badge of honor. American socialists may imagine their proposals mirror those in Northern Europe countries such as Sweden and Norway. In reality, ideas along the lines of Medicare for all have more in common with economists' traditional definition of socialism. The record of countries who have experimented with those types of command and control systems is devastating. Maoist China, the Soviet Union, and Venezuela among them.
Yes.
The sky-high taxes needed to fund Medicare for all. Get these numbers now. The sky-high taxes needed to fund Medicare for all alone, for example, would lead to a staggering $17,000 drop in household incomes after taxes and healthcare expenditures, a 19% decline. Without taxing American workers, funding this radical plan would require cuts to half of the federal budget, wrecking Medicaid, Social Security, and traditional Medicare in the process. Socialist policies have failed across the world. Wherever they are tested, they have no place in the United States of America. That is the official word from the White House on the 200th anniversary of the birth of Karl Marx. How awesome is that?
Well, therein, brother, you proved my point about what I said, that I would be surprised if the younger generation didn't know who Marx was, but had a very distorted view of who he was and his beliefs and how that system plays out, because the younger, and we're going to have to take a break here in about 1 minute, but it, it's just obvious that we see that so many of the younger generation now absolutely believe in this socialist utopia. They have been sold this. They've been indoctrinated with it through. Listen, brother, the internment camps already exist in the United States. They're called the public school system. And they've been indoctrinated. They have been told this, rob from the rich and give to the poor. Everybody needs to be equal. Everybody gets their fair share, on and on and on. But yet what they are not being taught is what you just shared, that every society in history that has gone down this path has failed miserably. And we're watching the devastating effects of this right now on a daily basis in Venezuela, which used to be a prospering, beautiful, wonderful country and is falling apart at the seams, and people have no food to eat. They have zero public services. They are in total disarray, and people are fleeing from there right now.
And it falls to us, apparently, to be us and the White House to be the educators. When we come back from the...
For thousands of years, mankind has debated how creation began. Ancient texts tell us the story. But today, the real message behind the pivotal account of the Garden of Eden has been obfuscated and lost. That is, until now. World-renowned author Karl Gallups digs up the hidden truths from the book of Genesis to finally give back the knowledge that was lost to the world. Find out what really happened in the Garden of Eden, what Jesus taught about Eden on the cross, and how the conflict between Jesus and the gods of antiquity is about to erupt on planet Earth, fulfilling biblical prophecy. In the new book, Gods of Ground Zero, this explains everything.